Alright, how's it going, everybody? It's Thursday, technically, 3:02 a.m. in Seattle. I'm doing my third podcast. And, well, shit, gonna get started on it. I guess before I get started, really, though, I should say, if you have any ideas or you got any suggestions, things that you want to hear out of me, or, I don't know. Hell, you could even start a topic and be like, I've got a buddy coming through who might want to talk about, 70s rockers and cocaine. That's a very likely reality here in a couple of days here, but yeah, I don't know. Email me at luceropodcast@gmail.com. That's LUCERO podcast@gmail.com, and you can help guide the show. I think that would be a good idea anyway, at least until I get this shit figured out a little bit more. Right, yeah. Alright, so anyway, a couple of things I'm going to start with today. Let's see here. Just kind of briefly cruising through the Reddit Seattle page. Macklemore is going to be doing a show at Neumos Saturday at 9 p.m. And I guess I'll put it this way. I'll tell you where I'm not going to be going. It's fucking Neumos. As I understand, it's going to be a free show, so, look out. Probably going to be a shit show. I might just go stand out on the street corner and just, wait for him to stand out there and, maybe talk shit to him. I don't know. You guys might like him. I just don't, personally, like Macklemore. I remember he had, a little bit of controversy back, maybe last year or something like that, where, he came out dressed in, people were saying it was Jewish garb or whatever, the Hasidic Jew look, and then he had a prosthetic nose that really accentuated the look. And just to kind of add to the context a little bit more, supposedly he was also doing it to his hit song Thrift Shop, so you can kind of get the suggestion on it. Personally, I mean, whatever, yeah, people appropriately responded. I think they got offended, probably correctly so, but nonetheless, I don't know. I didn't find it offensive to my sensibility or whatever. I mean, on some level, I got what he was, doing, but at the same time, it's okay, you realize you can't do that, right? So anyway, he tried sidestepping that whole controversy thing and, saying oh, I wasn't doing, all that shit, right? But, I think it was just kind of more covering up his ass. I mean, what do you expect? But, whatever. Anyway, point is, I mean, I'm not a hater because, whatever his viewpoints on people's race or religion are. I guess ultimately, the thing that offends me more is if someone's a hypocrite about it, whereas if they're just a straight up racist, I'm okay, whatever. I mean, at least you're true to whatever your idea is, I guess,
Big mistake.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I'm not really into racism, but I mean, if you're committed to it, don't be a hypocrite about it, I guess. Apparently, moving on. Apparently, there's a lot of Prozac, Advil, Benadryl, Lipitor, and even cocaine in Puget Sound salmon. Basically, the summary on the article said it could be mishandling of said products, via the waste system, or it could be people doing a lot of drugs. What is that supposed to mean? People are doing so much coke that, it's coming out in their piss and intoxicating, the salmon population. I don't know. That seems kind of, I don't know. Seems a little silly, but maybe we are doing that much coke. Maybe. I don't know. Moving on. Let's see here. Oh, a couple days ago I was talking about this thing in Lake City Way on 85th, Shea Taylor. And I guess I'll go to the article here because it's kind of a little more in depth than what was initially going on here. or I mean, from the initial impression I got all about it. Of course, the NAACP is saying that it's a cold-blooded murder, and that might be the case. I mean, it's hard to say. Um, but there's outrage, murder without, execution without due process, which I have to agree with that. But more on that in just a moment. Let's see here. Basically, the cops are declining to comment on it at the moment. The cops responsible are on paid administrative leave, like standard order for voice cracked there. Oh my god, I'm fucking 28. My voice cracked. Standard police order for that sort of shit. Let's see here. What else? So the one of the issues of content that came up here, or miscontent here that came up, was the police have described Mr. Taylor as a convicted felon, right? But apparently he had a handgun, which I obviously, if you're a felon, you shouldn't have a handgun. That's kind of a given, but I'm not saying that, right out the get-go that he was in the wrong for that. I'm just saying here are the facts that are coming out. Had a handgun as a convicted felon. Apparently, let's see here, a civilian witness reported that Taylor reached for a handgun, prompting police to fire, according to the statement. However, you never know. Maybe the police could have, suggested to the witness, like, you saw that, right? You saw that gun, right? And the person would be like, yeah, I guess, or maybe. I don't know. There's always a little bit of room for doubt there, and I know that sounds like I'm crazy or being paranoid, but I've seen it, even on Making a Murderer, when they were interviewing Brendan Dassey before they took him in. They were totally coaxing him into saying shit. Anyway, back to fucking this article. Anyway, apparently he reached for the gun, even though like the cops were giving him clear orders to put his hands up and all that. Apparently 2 other people were in the Taurus, and police booked one on suspicion of possessing heroin. Substances suspected to be crack cocaine and black tar heroin were found on Taylor when he arrived at Harborview, police said. Just quoting the news article here. Again, could be a plant. Could also be that maybe he was, why would he have it on him? That's a good question, but maybe he was giving some friends a ride. But yeah, like, why would you have it on you? Is, that's just speculation, but the facts are he supposedly had it on him. Could be a plant. You never know, but anyway. Let's see here. The news conference, Attorney James Bible, who's representing the NAACP as well as Taylor's family, said he thinks there are additional videos of the incident that the police may be withholding. I think there were a few different angles on that scene that we're not seeing here that I would definitely like to see. So I can't, say that he's in the wrong for making that statement. Let's see here. Calling on outside agencies to possibly investigate this, like the State Attorney's General Office, the State Attorney General's Office. Pardon me, I'm still kind of new to this shit. Let's see here. It's just like one of those things where it's like, okay, if the cops really felt they were threatened, I guess, but right now it's still a little bit muddy, but the details are still coming out. I'll probably know the next podcast a little bit more about whatever's going on here. Apparently Taylor has a little bit of a rap, apparently going by an alias by the name of Marvin R. Hunter. His felony records include rape, robbery, and assault, and was under supervision by the State Department of Corrections after being sent to prison in 1992, released in 2014. Let's see. Basically, the news media according to some, are saying that they're blowing this way out of proportion, making him seem like a demon. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, like I said, did he or did he not go for the gun? I mean, fuck the drugs or whatever. That's nothing really. But I mean, did he or did he not go for the gun? Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the article. I mean, everything else is kind of like that. Oh, he was a person to stuff, which isn't, to say that he wasn't a person, but I mean, just like, it's not factual, so I'm not gonna, I mean, you know what it's gonna be. It's like, oh, we loved him, and, he didn't deserve this, and, like, you know what that if you've ever read a murder article or a police shooting article, you know what they have to say about him. Obviously, they love him. That's his family that, they're talking about him. Let's see here. Let's see. Police are saying that there's a guy running around First Hill, fucking whacking it in front of women, jacking off, just for jollies, I guess. Let's see. He looks like a kind of a lanky dude. I don't think I've gotten a description. Apparently his name is Jason Carl Reville, or Revile, Reville. Said he's about 44. I'd have to say that's about right. Let's see. No description on how tall he is, but it kind of looks like he's maybe about like 6 foot or so. Kind of on the taller side, lanky. If I had to guess, maybe his background might be like a little German-ish, Anyway, point is, kind of like shaggy hair. He looks unshaven in the photo, but, you can shave your hair and all that shit, right? Anyway, so look out for that. If you're out on First Hill, you might see somebody masturbating. Probably wouldn't be the first time either, though. I mean, I gotta be honest. I mean, you get a little bit more on Capitol Hill as you get towards Broadway and shit, but, First Hill's not too far away, so you probably get a little bit of the crazy people out there masturbating in front of you. Don't you think? I don't know. But I tell you what. At least as far as all the Reddit articles, that's what I've got for now. I was going to I've been looking at this for like the last week or so. I had some ideas for my first podcast. And I'm just gonna go over the list. Let's see. We've already kind of talked about some alcohol stories. I don't think I have like a good one that comes to mind yet. But if you do have some alcohol stories and you're out there listening and thinking like, shit, I've got a funny story, or damn, I fucked up story, well, fuck it. I mean, I'll share a funny one. At least I thought it was funny anyway. So, I was getting a ride back from a party somewhere, and I was riding in my buddy's car, of course. And at some point, this was back when I was living in Linwood, off of what was that? Admiralty Way, I think, is what the street was. Kind of off of like 148th and Admiralty. It was this apartment building called Tamron Ranch, but everyone kind of fucking, who was a little immature, called it Tampon Ram. Just because like the spelling was just so fucking close. Anyway, so I'm living at Tampon Ran, and let's see here. My buddy pulls into the parking lot, and he wants to get me out so he can go back home or whatever, do his thing, and I'm refusing to leave the car. I rarely ever puke, but like as he's like, which apartment building do you live in? And as I'm trying to get out of the car or whatever, I just like fucking spew like all over the fucking place. And that part's not funny because that's not cool. But I mean, so there's that. I'm all dressed up in like a, at least like a black button-up shirt and some black jeans, and like I think I had like a brown paisley tie. I know it sounds ugly as fuck, but that brown paisley tie was sick. Anyway, so yeah, I spewed all over myself, and fucking he starts getting me up to the apartment building after I get out of the car finally, and apparently like we walk up to the wrong section of the building, and I'm like trying to get my keys into this other person's fucking door. And I'm realizing like this whole time, like I can only imagine somebody was thought they were like I was trying to break into their fucking apartment. I've realized this whole time that I'm like at the wrong fucking door. God damn it, my fucking voice cracked again. I'm fucking 28 and my voice is cracking sometimes. I think it's because like I need to raise my microphone and I'm like challenging my voice to talk, right? But like I've got my mic all like super low, so it's like I'm talking into my chest. Maybe I'll adjust my microphone here. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know. It was a dumb story, right? I mean, it wasn't that great, but fucking puking a friend's car, and then he's trying to like make sure I do the right thing, get into my own apartment, and don't even know where I fucking live. I'm all so blacked out. I mean, that's relatively mild. I'm sure I can like dig deeper and get like some other alcohol stories going in there, but one up me. Tell me a better fucking alcohol story. I would love to hear it. LuceroPodcast@gmail.com. You know it. Anyway. Let's see. I was gonna talk about how I'm bad with women, but I mean that's just kind of like when I first jotted down the ideas, I was like taking a shit half the time, and so I'm like, okay, what can I talk about? What can I talk about? And I don't know. I mean, there's really not much to talk about. I mean, I'm just not a ladies' man per se, I mean, which is fine. I'm not complaining, but I don't know. It's like one of those things where I've always been kind of content with, hanging out by myself. And it almost feels like there's this like exterior pressure to want to settle down somehow. I mean, and I kind of even put that sort of thing on myself. But, people come up like, oh, hey, how you doing, man? Whatever, they're introducing themselves and you're meeting them for the first time. And they're talking about, oh, my old lady, fucking this and that, and I got kids and stuff like that, and I have nothing to say back except cool, don't know anything about that, and they're like, well, it eventually leads down the road of like they figure out that I'm like single and don't have any kids, and sometimes it's like one of those things where like, oh, dude, that's awesome. I wish that was my situation. I mean, some of them are like real party animals and want to fucking just, be back to being, where I'm at in my life. And I understand that. That's cool. But then sometimes you also get those people who are like, well, you haven't lived until you've fucking done it. Until, I don't know. You don't get that a whole lot because I think most of the time those people are too busy with their kids to be hanging out where I'm hanging out, which is good. I don't need to be a part of that fucking universe at all. The closest I'll probably want to get for now is being somebody's uncle or cousin. Godfather's pushing it. Like I don't want to be somebody's godparent. That just who the fuck does that? Catholics, right? I mean, like. Why? I never understood that shit. Just so you can be, communally responsible for this child to make sure that the child fucking succeeds. I don't know. How would you put that job back on the fucking parents? Which doesn't seem like it's happening enough. Like, to derail for a moment and talk about that shit. It seems like everybody's, If they do have a good job, they're out of fucking touch with their kids. Seattle's got so many fucking au pairs, which I mean, I didn't even realize what an au pair was, but I guess it's like a live-in nanny who also has like some nursing degree or something like that. I thought for the longest time it was just a live-in nanny, and I was like, well, what the fuck? I mean, I wish I was an au pair, I mean, nobody's ever gonna hire a dude because they think somebody's gonna fucking be Uncle Touchy, and that's kind of insulting too. But I'm really, really, really derailing. I'm getting off on all these like tangents. But yeah, I mean, otherwise it seems like okay, so if you don't have a good job and you can't afford an au pair, people are just letting their kids fucking run wild. Not giving them any sort of structure, I mean, to some degree, like some things are better with kids now, as far as their exposure to the internet and their capability to um, process all the new information that might be out there. But at the same time, they're potentially exposed to porn all that much more. But anyway, um, but but in general, I mean, and like I feel like there's this huge disconnect between parents and kids currently, where I don't expect. I think it's even a bad thing if you're a helicopter parent. I had helicopter parents, and I don't know. I'm just kind of an angry guy. I don't know. And there's some studies that suggest helicopter parents kind of produce that sort of thing. Um, but invest a little sort of energy into your kid. Make sure that they understand manners and all the common sense fundamental stuff. Don't just fucking say, okay, here's a Game Boy. I mean, and some sugar snacks, and fucking go fuck off in the corner. I'm gonna be watching porn and smoking weed and drinking beer and maybe fingering mommy a little bit. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know, man. It's just fucking. That's what it is. So I don't know. I don't feel any sort of urge to settle down with a woman at the moment. If I go out to a bar, I mean, I might talk to a couple and say, hi, how's it going? For fuck's sake, my voice. Well, I hope you're all getting a laugh out of that, because, yeah, I'm not. Anyway, so, if I go out to a bar, I might talk to a couple women or whatever, but, once in a while, I'll take it as far as getting a number, or she'll take it as far as getting my number. But generally, I mean, I acknowledge that there's pretty women out there, but they're not my personality type. They're generally lacking in some sort of department that I find interesting. But the people I do find interesting tend to be a little bit, crazy or weird, or they're the kind of people that latch onto you and, you're like, oh, fuck. You're weirding me out just by being you. Those kind of like weird chicks that are like, oh, hey, how's it going? Oh, like I'm trying to get your attention. I'm gonna just talk a lot and make you all nervous, and because I'm gonna just like open up and it's just a endless conscious flow of stream of words where I'm just projecting all my insecurity on you, and you're just gonna be like, yeah, sure, whatever. I mean, those kind of chicks just turn around and run. Or I mean, if you want to be like mature about it, I guess I can just put your finger up to the lips, be like, shh, 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 it's okay, just you're talking too much, like it's not, kind of scaring me. Maybe you should work on that. Guys do that too, so ladies, don't take that personally, like whatever, like I'm being sexist. Do it to a dude too. Fucking if guys talking too much, just kind of be like, same thing like I just said, just be like, hey, slow it down there, spaz. Let's see here, burning up, we're at 24 minutes. Let's see. So yeah, I'm bad with women, but it's one of those things where I'm getting out there a little bit more. I don't know what my issue is. I think it's just like the cold approach, and also just not taking an interest in what I see out there. Also, to be perfectly honest, like I might be a little insecure because like I need to just fucking get in shape a little bit more, which I've been working on. There's just like some charts that I downloaded off the internet for free that are like basically like weightless workout routines that are essentially like I said, you don't need weights to work out, which is totally up my alley. And also, I mean, I'm generally not I like running, and I wasn't too bad at it in high school, but it's one of those things where I mean, unless I've got access to a track or a treadmill, I generally don't like running around town, in those sleek fucking runner's outfits or whatever, or just being that guy. I'm not into the runner culture. I just, like to jog and just not be seen, I guess, or run and not be seen. But yeah. So anyway, moving on. Whatever. Um, the environment is all I wrote, and then underneath some of that stuff, I guess I had like some bulletins, and I guess this was like maybe about about a week ago or so, and big in the news was that whole Flint water crisis, and just everything that's coming out about that stuff. Like I guess they were paying more money for their water, and it was polluted to boot. Um, all that stuff. I fracking's like a hard thing to for me to comment on because I don't know a whole lot about it, but from what I'm seeing, pattern after pattern, cities are slowly affected by the water supply. Kids are severely affected by the amount of lead in their brain. People are able to light their water on fire. The water turns black sometimes. It just doesn't seem like fracking is a good idea. And especially with, maybe right now at this phase of it anyway. I mean, maybe it might turn out to be a good thing later on. But for now, it's one of those things where, unless we can figure out, like, what the extent of a water aquifer underground is, which, as far as I understand anyways, is hard to determine. You could have like a small well, or you could have a football field of water, 30 feet deep. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how big aquifers get, but I mean, I understand they can get pretty big. And I mean, if a whole town relies on one water supply and, you're fracking near that, just like what you see with the Flint thing. I mean, I don't know. But it seems like the news story has kind of died out. I mean, it's like, I don't mean like literally sexy, but like in the news business, I guess it's not a sexy article. It's a bunch of like people, like, it's not like, Trayvon Martin got shot, and so there's all this like fervor. There's two sides to the argument, it's and it might even be getting, some hush money from the big companies, who are doing the fracking, who are like, I mean, hey, whatever, can you keep this on the hush? Stop talking about this in the news. Here's a big bag of money. Shut the fuck up. You never know. I mean, that, I don't believe in news organizations being unbiased or anything anymore. I mean, that's just my opinion. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, big business fracking. Essentially, I mean, what it's all coming to is that from what I'm hearing in some news reports regarding the environment, is that we're past the point of no return. That is to say that even if we were to stop suddenly polluting, if we turned out every light bulb, if we used water more conservatively, etc., 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 we could possibly turn the planet around, and we wouldn't. Well, what we're facing is global warming, and they're saying the sea levels are rising at an alarming rate, and they've been saying that for years now. And I still am wondering about that because I have yet to see the sea level rise here in Seattle, but I mean, maybe someday soon, I mean, fuck, who knows. But that's kind of why I give like the global warming skeptics a little bit of credit, because I'm like, okay, I thought New York was supposed to be underwater by now if all these sea levels are rising. I mean, not all of New York's could be underwater, but it might end up being like Venice, where, like some of it's underwater and you got all these like skyscrapers poking out the sky, or taller buildings. But even down on the Seattle waterfront, I haven't seen anything like submerged yet. But I mean, I guess we're at the point of no return, is what I'm understanding. So it's kind of like, what do you do? Load up on guns, right? Let's see. I mean, but I guess this is like one of those things where it's like, how did we let ourselves get to that point? Um, Big business basically, I think, paid its way to be able to be allowed to dump hazardous material in streams all across America that, maybe upstream of like poor communities who have no clout, who can't afford a lawyer, who are underrepresented, that kind of stuff. Or when let's see, I felt like it was like a token trophy sort of thing that the government was taking on, where they're like, oh, you've got to be able to meet like a quota for less greenhouse emissions. But then, like, I mean, I don't feel like anything's actually drastically slowed down. They basically just gotten slaps on the wrist and fines and stuff like that. But I mean, if you're big business, you probably should have no business if your business is polluting the environment. I'm not trying to say that in like some hippy-dippy tree hugger fucking kind of way. But I mean, when you consider the fact that there's sludge in streams, there's fucking fish with, plastic in their fucking guts from that Pacific Ocean plastic swirl that's, like 2 miles wide or some shit like that out there. I don't fucking know, but there's a garbage swirl of like just plastic that is so fucking murky out in the Pacific Ocean. Google that shit. Look it up if you don't believe me. Bill Burr's talked about it. A lot of people are talking about that. I mean, it's a common joke now, but I mean, the joke's on us, But again, it's one of those things where, okay, also not just big business, but also our wasteful attitude, as far as like, it's easier to replace something than it is to try and repair it, and that sort of approach to shit is what got us here in the first place as well. I don't know. I'm not trying to be all doom and gloom, but I mean, it's just like I have no hope for the planet in the next 50 years. I am definitely going to be intending to load up on guns. And I know it sounds funny, like I sound like I'm crazy, but like, what do I expect? Like I'm fucking like John Wayne or Rambo, if I find myself in one of those situations where I would need it. But you never know, I guess. I don't know. If nothing else, I can use the excuse as to be ready for the zombie apocalypse. I've already talked about elections earlier this week, so I don't feel like much has happened yet. I mean, we're basically just doing all the primaries, figuring out who's going to be who, right? As far as representing some people are thinking like Ted Cruz or Rubio might take it over Trump, and Trump is seeming to get a little backlash, from what I'm understanding, even from his own party. I don't know if they're really his own party, but I heard somewhere on like NPR that he was getting like booed by a lot of people, and he got pissed off at one of these conventions. So I mean, hopefully we're doing good here. Hopefully we don't have to deal with Trump, and it might be some one of these second string runners for the the Republican thing, versus ideally, personally, I mean, I'd like Sanders, but I don't know with Hillary Clinton. I could do without Clinton. I'll put it that way. And I've said that before, and I know I'll probably say it a bunch of times until election time. But yeah, we'll see. Let's see. I was gonna talk about my job, I guess. I mean, I'm just burning minutes here, right? I work at as a janitor in like a building kind of near the Dix in Queen Anne. I'll leave it at that. But let's see. it's one of those things where, I mean, it's just like it sounds. I empty trash cans. I fucking clean sinks out. In some of these offices have kitchens, so I'll clean out the sinks and the countertops. I'll mop floors. I'll sweep. They've got this like dust mop. This essentially, it's like maybe like a yard wide, and whatever you imagine, I'm sweeping with that shit, right? Anyway, but it's one of those things where it's kind of like you can kind of tell that office people or people who work in offices are kind of scummy. And I'm not, judging them as a whole, but some people are, in the sense of like, you know, I have no illusions about my job. I mean, it is what it is. But when you're blatantly making the job like difficult by throwing away like 30 pounds of magazines all at the same fucking time in the recycle bin, more like 50 pounds or more, and you say some cute shit to me as I walk in, like, oh, we've got a lot of recycle for you today. Fuck you, old white bitch. Go fuck yourself. It's like saying, to somebody like who has to clean toilets, which fortunately I don't have to do for now, but like you just drop a fat shit on the toilet seat and it's like, oh, I left you a little something there. It's like, go fuck yourself. How about you, take care of that, or in my instance, how about you maybe like throw away a little bit more often some of these magazines in smaller quantities. I wouldn't be so pissed off. But no, you gotta throw away like 60 pounds of fucking magazines all at the same time. So I misestimate like how many bags I fucking need, and shit spills all over the fucking the concrete as I'm trying to throw that shit in the recycle bin, and I gotta spend like 15 minutes fucking just picking up individual magazines and scraps of fucking paper. I don't know, fucking, or shit like I don't know, just people in general just make it look like or just little shit where it's like I'm expected to clean up after you, like or break boxes down, like I'm like a complete slave. Like there are limitations to what I'm actually getting paid for, and these people just seem to have the wrong opinion. Boo-hoo, fucking right. Boo-hoo me. I know, right? But if you do the job for like a month or two, you're like, oh man, people who work in office buildings are the shittiest people. At least as far as like being clean and fucking and not being total pieces of shit. I don't know how to describe it any other way, but I guess that's what it is. Otherwise I don't mind the job. The job pays well enough, but it's just like, I guess like to elaborate a little bit further, it's just like how bitchy they are, and when they complain, they make it sound like you never do your fucking job, but it's like, I mean, I clean up after you guys every day. I do all this shit for you every day. So don't, sometimes people call out sick and you got to cover other people for their shift. So sometimes I might have to do 2 buildings in a night, which, no big deal, but fucking, that means I'm not gonna be able to do everything, and you got the fucking nerve to complain. Suck my dick. Going down the card a little bit further, the other day I saw a car sitting for a few days in the same parking spot, so they might have been out on a business trip or some shit like that, but it took me back to a time when, this is back in 2008 when I was working for the Old Spaghetti Factory in Linwood, Old Spaghetti Factory, if you're listening, fuck you guys, you're pieces of shit company. How about you pay your employees a little bit more now that the economy's doing a little bit better? I bet you still have a fucking salary cap and make it sound like you can't afford to pay your employees more as you fucking rake in the dough for yourselves, for the top dogs. Give all those managers cutting back on expenses, sweet little bonuses, giving everybody in upper management a fucking circle jerk. Fuck you. But anyway, back to when I was working there. There was this instance when, you know, there was a car sitting for several days, and you know everybody noticed it because this is where most of the employees parked. You couldn't even park in the Spaghetti Factory parking lot. You had to fucking park in some other parking lot because you were pieces of shit employees, right? Anyway, so somebody was like, oh, they told this like Filipino chick to go check it out, and then they asked me to go check it out too, just because, you know, just to back her up and make sure she was safe, and I was the closest guy standing there. So I was like, all right, that's fine, whatever. I kind of had my suspicions up from the get-go before I even got down to the car, but as we were coming down the stairs, by the way, this is in the parking lot by between Spaghetti Factory and what was like Petco, Barnes and Noble. There's like a little stairway. It's right across the street from the McDonald's. Anyway, so I'm coming down the stairs, and I think I can see a guy that's kind of like, you know, looks like he's hunched over, like leaning up against the car window. And I'm so close at this point that I can see inside of the car clear as day. And you know, I see a gun in his lap and like a legal pad with like a page written out. And I'm like, oh fuck, you know. Apparently I turned white, and so I was like, you know, I turned to the chick and I'm like, let's get out of here, you know, you don't need to see this. And she didn't see it, fortunately, because she was like, what is it, you know, like what happened? And I kind of like broke it down like, yeah, that guy just killed himself, or you know, he killed himself several days ago because the car's been sitting there for several days. And so, you know, I tell the manager calls it in, and I guess like over the course of like the next hour, like the SWAT team had been called in and all this shit. Meanwhile, I'm back at work, and some of the customers are like talking about it, and I'm like, oh fuck, this is that, right? And you know, like I can hear them blatantly talking about like, yeah, we saw the SWAT team, and you know, because like most of the people who go to Spaghetti Factory are like old timers who can't taste shit because Spaghetti Factory can't fucking cook. And so anyway, back to the old people, like, oh yeah, with the SWAT team was called in, and you know, blah 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 blah, and they were pulling him out of the car, and you know, somebody asked me if I knew what was going on, and I was like, if only you fucking knew. But I refrained from telling them, you know, while they're eating their dinner that, you know, a guy killed himself, and what you saw was that his body was being dragged out of the fucking car. And the reason SWAT was there was obviously he had a fucking gun. So, which is just seemed like a blatant overreaction to me, honestly, because it's like the dude was dead. I mean, like, I fucking knew that. Like, you know, he'd been sitting there for 3 days, you know, but still the SWAT came in anyway. So, long story short, you know, when I saw that car sitting at my current job for like several days, I had the same reaction. So I went and kind of like car prowled it for a second. Not like I wanted to go break in, but just more like, you know, am I going to see another dead body today, you know, or what? Fortunately, I didn't, and the car's gone now, so probably just somebody on a business trip. But man, you know, horrible flashback, right? But I guess back to old Spaghetti Factory, you know, I mean, I guess as long as I'm talking shit about them, and if they decide they want to talk shit about me or you know, take like, you know, cease and desist order on me, I'm gonna just like be straight up with you guys. Do not eat at the fucking Spaghetti Factory, not because whatever whatever they put in their food or anything like that. I mean, I think what they put in their food is normal, but it's like what's that truck with like the green and the gold, and it's like one of those big major food providers like Food America or some shit like that, where basically it's just like a bunch of like shitty food slung together. You know, I mean, like, if you can make, which I'm pretty sure everybody can, some spaghetti at home, you can do a whole lot better making yourself some goddamn spaghetti at home. You can make better sauce. For fuck's sake, the old Spaghetti Factory couldn't make a decent Alfredo, and I thought you could not fuck that up. I mean, I'll go to a 7-Eleven and I'll buy their fucking Alfredo and be more satisfied with that shit than fucking whatever old Spaghetti Factory puts out, and I'll eat that shit cold, and still say that it's fucking better than whatever old Spaghetti Factory puts out. I guess with that, fuck them. And, well, this concludes our podcast. If you've got any suggestions, you want to talk shit to me, you want to, maybe guide the course of this show, you got anything to just even to fucking say, I would love to hear it. luceropodcast@gmail.com. Yeah, peace out, bitches. 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 Bitches.